Welcome back to the channel. After a week off from content, I am back at it with FPL and UCL fantasy videos and live streams, so keep your eyes peeled as we are approaching the Game Week 8 deadline. I'll be highlighting 11 players to buy, hold, sell and skip, with one player to add to the watch list as well. And what you see on screen are the most transferred in players at this point of the game week, and expect a lot more transfer activity to happen over the next couple of days. Antoine Semenyo is top with over 500,000 managers getting him in, and he's already gone up to 7.9 million this season. I mean, to go up by 0.9 million in price in just a matter of 2 months is incredible, and it goes to show how consistent Antoine Semenyo has been. The same goes for Erling Haaland, but that's what we expect from him at this point at 14.5 million. Voltemada, Caicedo and Jurrien Timber are in the top 5. Some of those players will be discussed in today's podcast, and others have been highlighted previously. You can also see names like Kudus, Gabriel, Saka, Senesi, and Enzo Fernandez, who is an injury doubt now going into Game Week 8, and I'll be covering different team news, injury updates, predicted lineups in future videos and podcasts. That includes my team selection, the best wildcard squad, and the predicted lineups podcast on top of a deadline stream this Saturday. Be sure not to miss it by smashing the like button, subscribing to the channel, and also hitting that notification bell so you're always up to date on my content for both FPL and UCL fantasy. And I'll be back at it with matchday free content as well, with the best limitless and wildcard squads, team selections, and deadline streams all season. Check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, furloughs to my videos, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the FPL League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. The first purchase I'm going to recommend today is Jarrod Bowen, who has decent fixtures coming up now, and West Ham are near the top of the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating. His ownership remains relatively low, and a lot of people avoided him for the Arsenal fixture, which was completely understandable despite his good record against the Gunners in the past. He did blank in that 2-0 defeat, but I think Jarrod Bowen is going to be extremely consistent from now on with that new manager in Nuno Espirito Santo, who will take charge of his third game at West Ham. Jarrod Bowen has 3 goals this season, and in all of those matches where he scored, he picked up maximum bonus points, so that's 9 overall. But the underlying stats are quite worrying to a certain extent. I mean, 0 big chances for a forward is simply not good enough, but Jarrod Bowen is a quality finisher. He doesn't need to have that many big chances to score goals, and that's why he's already off the mark several times this season and averaging a goal per 2 games. Now he has 15 shots overall, which is decent, 7 shots on target and 11 shots inside the box, but the quality of chances need to be better, and I think they'll create even better opportunities now for Jarrod Bowen, and they have some promising attackers there like Somerville and Lucas Paqueta, who links up very well with Jarrod Bowen. We've seen that time after time again over the years. The XG is only 0.87 for the West Ham talisman, only 1 big chance created and 5 key passes, but I think Bowen will be one of the best forwards in FPL. Erling Haaland is the obvious standout. Then you're looking at Gyökeres with Arsenal's fixtures in mind. Joao Pedro is still going to be very appealing, especially when Chelsea's fixtures turn around Game Week 9. And you could argue that Forest away will be quite decent as well this weekend. Apart from that, there's Nick Voltemada, the underperforming Jean-Philippe Mateta, but Jarrod Bowen definitely enters that sort of podium of the best forwards in Fantasy Premier League. That's why my recent wildcard squads, he has featured in those 15-man teams there, and I think Jarrod Bowen is definitely worth that sort of investment, especially at this price point and the low ownership. With 35 FPL points to his name at this point of the season, he's going to double that over the coming weeks. Jurrien Timber is establishing himself as one of the best right backs in world football, and his attacking output is certainly improving, with 2 goals and 2 fantasy assists so far this season in just a matter of 7 matches in the Premier League. But he did get a rest in the Champions League for match day 2 against Olympiacos, and that's something I warn people about for both FPL and UCL fantasy. Ben White will still get plenty of starts and minutes. He is a quality right back as well, but Jurrien Timber is first choice for the Gunners. And if I'm ranking the Arsenal defenders, Gabriel is still top, but Jurrien Timber is a close second. Then you're probably looking at David Raya in third to cover that Arsenal defence, and Saliba might be in fourth. Now, Calafiori is also looking quite solid if he can stay fit. He is currently the first choice left back for Arsenal, but that could change over the coming weeks. Hincapié will be available. He can cover for Gabriel at left centre-back, but he can also start in the left-back position, so that's something I'd be quite wary about on top of Calafiori's injury issues over the years. But Timber has 10 key passes this season and 48 FPL points. He won a penalty against West Ham, and he was so close to getting DEFCON as well. So in this position, he is so defensively resolute, and he's always trying to shut down the opposition winger. That gives him a great chance of getting DEFCON on a regular basis. It won't be to the same extent as Gabriel or Virgil van Dijk, for example, at a similar price tag, but at 5.9 million, I think Jurrien Timber is one of the very best defenders in FPL, with 9 shots overall, 9 shots inside the box, which is very impressive for a defender, and 5 shots on target. The XG is 1.67, and even the XA isn't too shabby at 0.41, with 1 big chance, 2 big chance created, and he's getting plenty of creativity and link-up play with Bukayo Saka. That is certainly much better than it was at this point last season, and Arsenal are top of the FDR up until Gameweek 12, where they face Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home, Burnley away, Sunderland away, and Tottenham at home. I think Arsenal can keep 2 or 3 clean sheets in this spell. Timber should start 4 of these matches coming up, but oddly enough, it could be that Burnley fixture where Timber is given a rest and Ben White starts, which is far from ideal because that is the best fixture on paper over the next 5 game weeks. But I think Jurrien Timber is a purchase. During pre-season, I ranked David Raya as the second best goalkeeper in FPL for the upcoming campaign, and he might even be number 1 at this point. You're going to get plenty of clean sheets from the Spaniard, also some bonus points and saves potential. All of the bonus points he has got so far this season came against Man United in Game Week 1 in that 1-0 victory, and I think David Raya is going to be very solid, especially in those big games. Maybe Arsenal might be under the cosh in certain matches, especially away from home, and if Arsenal walk away with a clean sheet, Raya has a great opportunity to produce a decent haul for a goalkeeper. He has made 15 saves so far this season with 4 clean sheets, 34 FPL points, but he didn't make a single save against West Ham because the Hammers just really had no chance during that match, and Arsenal completely dominated from start to finish. But if you're going to get 6 pointers on a regular basis, I don't think many people will complain. If you are doubling up on Arsenal defensively, which is my recommendation over the next 5 to 8 game weeks, I think having Raya and Gabriel is my preference, but you can still make a case for Jurrien Timber, of course, who is right up there, and even having 2 Arsenal defenders, but that does occupy 2 out of 5 slots in that defensive position, which is why sometimes it is ideal to have that goalkeeper in Raya, who is now 5.7 million, just like Donnarumma. And ultimately, if you are spending this much on a goalkeeper, it has to be David Raya with Arsenal's clean sheet potential. You might find better value with the likes of Rufs, but also fewer clean sheets in the process. And I think Arsenal will keep at least 2 over the next 5. And to be honest, 3 or 4 would not be surprising. Now, in terms of the underlying stats, 56 shots conceded is still pretty decent in a matter of 7 matches for the Gunners. The expected clean sheets is 3.91, so that's very sustainable and healthy for Arsenal, with only 5 big chances conceded all season. The expected goals conceded as well is 4.35. So as you can see, Arsenal have good underlying stats, but they're also delivering that sort of output. So it's all sustainable, healthy, and it does bode well in the long term if they continue with this trajectory. And I think their main issue sometimes is with creativity and also unlocking defenses and deep blocks, especially from open play. But I have no qualms about Arsenal defensively. I think a double up is certainly viable, and a triple up in the Arsenal overall is also a very big recommendation from me, and it has been for several weeks now. You could also consider something like Saka and Gyökeres to cover the Arsenal attack, and then one Arsenal defensive coverage like Raya in goal, or Gabriel, or Jurrien Timber. And whilst you can't go wrong with Calafiori or Saliba, I think they're a step down from Raya and Timber, who have been recommended in this video. Gabriel is still my preference, but I think Raya is still the best goalkeeper in FPL right now. There's no doubt that Mohamed Salah isn't justifying that 14.4 million price tag, but to sell him now would be absolute madness in my opinion. Liverpool have lost 3 consecutive games across all competitions, and they look a bit shaky. The balance isn't quite there, but Salah is still getting big chances, and he is facing Man United next. He has a tremendous record against them, and history would suggest that Salah is going to produce the goods once again. In the Premier League alone, Salah, in just a matter of 15 matches, has produced 13 goals and 6 assists against Man United. And if you also stretch to the FA Cup, that's 16 goals and 6 assists in 17 matches. These are incredible numbers, and he is probably a leading captaincy contender alongside Erling Haaland. So if you want to go a little bit different this week, I think captaining Salah would be a great play. If you base off recent performances and Liverpool's kind of question marks, especially with their attack and the sort of chemistry they have between Wirtz, Isak, Salah and Gakpo, it's not quite there yet, and I'm not going to deny it, but I still think Salah can produce a goal or two and maximum bonus points against Man United, and he could be the difference maker yet again. And it's really difficult to back against Liverpool in any home fixture, even if they're facing some of the best teams in world football. And whilst Man United look decent against Sunderland, you'd still think Liverpool are heavy favourites to win in Game Week 8. Salah only has 2 goals and 2 assists this season, which is the same as Jirin Timber, which is absolutely ridiculous when you say out loud. Only 2 big chances and 34 FPL points, but the underlying stats in general are still promising in certain areas, not quite to that 14.4 million price tag. And I think Erling Haaland is obviously the best premium in FPL right now, but I wouldn't be selling Salah to go to Erling Haaland in Game Week 8, especially for a hit. I think the best time to sell Salah might be in Game Week 10 or 11, but even against Aston Villa at home, for example, it'd be quite difficult to make that sort of downgrade to another player. But of course, if it leads to Erling Haaland being bought up front, then I would understand it. 13 shots overall for the Egyptian, 5 shots on target and 12 shots inside the box. The XG is improving now at 2.13 and the XA is exactly 1 with 4 big chances created and 12 key passes. But no matter what you do, I think Salah is a hold for Game Week 8. Then you can start to sell in the coming weeks, of course. And Erling Haaland is still the top dog in Fantasy Premier League right now. There's no disputing that. And that's a move I made a couple of weeks ago. But if I still had Salah going into that Man United fixture this weekend, there is no chance I'd be selling him. Victor Gyökeres was a very popular transfer going into Game Week 7 against West Ham, and he was disappointing. I think his overall performance was quite weak. He was on the ground a lot. He wasn't really coping with the physicality of Mavropanos and Kilman to the best possible level, and he also missed a big chance. He should have done much better. He does a lot of dirty work for the team. He has a few goals already under his belt, and I think having that proper striker who makes those runs and opens up space for Saka is crucial. So whilst I don't really dispute Gyökeres' importance to the Arsenal team, I still think it's quite fair for us to expect more from him as an FPL asset. But I think the goals will come, especially with these upcoming fixtures. He won the Golden Boot for the Nations League for Sweden. He recently won the award of the best striker in world football at the Ballon d'Or ceremony, and there is a reason for that. He is a pure goal-scoring machine, and I just don't think it makes any sense to sell him with Arsenal's upcoming fixtures. And Bukayo Saka took the penalty against West Ham, but there's also some context to apply to that because that was his 200th Premier League appearance and also his 100th goal contribution. So Bukayo Saka was extremely motivated to take that penalty, and whilst we could see them share the penalties as we have seen over the last couple of years of Odegaard and Saka, I still think Gyökeres could take the next Arsenal penalty, and I think, especially if he's on a goal drought, he will be taking that and delivering on a very consistent basis. So once he gets that next goal and the confidence is there, he also understands his teammates better. I think Gyökeres is going to score plenty of goals for Arsenal and get to 20 Premier League goals for this season. He is definitely off course from that, and in the last couple of matches it hasn't been good enough, but I think Gyökeres' goal scoring potential is still extremely high. His XG is 3.05, so that's extremely healthy in the long term. 26 FPL points is quite underwhelming, and half of it obviously came against Leeds United essentially back in Game Week 2. 6 big chances, 5 key passes, and the XA is only 0.45, but still, I think Gyökeres can get a few assists this season. We've seen that with Sporting as well in the last couple of seasons, and that's 15 shots with all of them being inside the box. Only 5 shots on target, but I also think Arsenal need to create more big opportunities for Victor Gyökeres because he will deliver. He's a quality finisher, and once he gets that next goal, I think it's going to click for him, and he's going to be one of the best forwards in Fantasy Premier League. So this is yet another clear example of a very obvious hold in FPL. In the opening game of Matchday 7, we saw that early substitution. I say early, it was around 78 minutes for Marcus Senesi, but that has caused a lot of people to be concerned with the Argentine, and he would have been on course for DEFCON once again. That was the only time he has failed to secure defensive contribution points this season, but he has been so consistent. I think we can give him the benefit of the doubt here with 2 fantasy assists, 88 defensive contributions, and 46 FPL points. I still think Marcus Senesi is one of the best defenders in FPL for the foreseeable future, and on a wildcard, he would still be included. The upcoming fixtures aren't particularly great. Crystal Palace away, Nottingham Forest at home, then it's Man City and Aston Villa away back-to-back, but Senesi could still secure DEFCON, and as long as Bournemouth don't concede multiple goals, we could see healthy returns from the Argentine centre-back who also played for his country over this international break, and West Ham at home in Gameweek 12 still looks promising, and Bournemouth are certainly very interesting from an FPL perspective. Semenyo is the clear standout, but Senesi is their second best option, and I would rank him significantly higher than Diakite and Truffert, who are decent options, but Senesi is a level above, and when it comes to DEFCON, not many will really stack up to him in the long term. So I think Senesi is a very obvious hold. Would I be buying him in right now? Not necessarily, especially against Crystal Palace away, but Bournemouth have a decent record against the Eagles, and then you look at some of those home fixtures, I think 1 or 2 clean sheets is possible, and Senesi can get plenty of goal contributions from set pieces and even sometimes from open play. So I think Marcus Senesi is a hold, and on the wild card, he would still be included for the long term. The same doesn't apply to Richarlison, who was benched against Leeds United in that 2-1 victory. Matthias Tel started up front and scored the opening goal, and Richarlison is a confidence player. He has these purple patches and some big returns on the odd occasion, but he's not going to give you that consistency, and even with the minutes and starts, we could see some issues further down the road, especially when Solanke and Colomwani are available, because Richarlison isn't really a step above those players. In fact, you could argue he's the worst striker of the three. He is Premier League proven, but his record for Spurs in general is quite underwhelming. He does have 3 goals and 1 assist this season, and of course that massive return back in Gameweek 1 against Burnley with 15 shots inside the box and 32 FPL points. But you look at the next 5 fixtures, and Tottenham Hotspur are bottom of the FDR, facing the likes of Chelsea at home and Arsenal away during that spell. Richarlison still costs 6.8 million, but the best Spurs attacker is clearly Kudus at this moment in time. He's the only one who is worth holding on to, but I don't think it's really a good time to purchase these Tottenham players, and Richarlison, for those that have him, is a sell. That's quite clear. Nick Voltemada, Jarrod Bowen, Joao Pedro, Victor Gyökeres are all great replacements, and maybe for some people, maybe downgrading a Salah in the coming weeks and then upgrading Richarlison to Haaland would be perfect, but that's not something I'd recommend for Gameweek 8 necessarily, especially with Salah's record against Man United in mind. But Richarlison is still a sell. He could score and start these games against Aston Villa and Everton, but you're not going to get that consistency with the returns and the minutes in the long term. So I think with Richarlison, the underlying stats aren't particularly great either. So the XG is 1.69, 2 big chances, 1 big chance created, and 4 key passes. The good thing though is that he's had 15 shots and all of them have been inside the box, but Richarlison is a clear sell. Sometimes in FPL you have these situations where a player like Grealish could be held on to in the long term, and he's not a priority sell by any means. I think he's a decent player still in the midfield, but there are some upgrades you can make. Antoine Semenyo is the obvious one, and for those that haven't invested now for several months, there is definitely the argument to kind of go without Semenyo and find a different route to go against him. Ismaila Sarr is a great differential, and I would rank him higher than Jack Grealish, and my favourite Everton midfielder remains in Dye, but Grealish produced 10 points in Gameweek 7, scoring that late winner against Crystal Palace, and ultimately Jack Grealish, he is unavailable to face his parent club in Man City going into Gameweek 8. But then it's Tottenham at home, Sunderland away, Fulham at home, and Man United away. Those are okay fixtures, especially from an attacking perspective, and I think Grealish could be held on to during that period. But when you've got Ismaila Sarr, Moises Caicedo, Bukayo Saka, and all these different midfielders I've talked about in my recent wildcard videos, there is definitely a case to sell Grealish this week. But if you do decide to keep him after Man City away, I wouldn't be in a rush to sell him afterwards going into Gameweek 9, where you could start him and get some returns in the process. He scored his first goal of the season, of course, against Crystal Palace. Apart from that, he's been producing the assists. He won the Player of the Month award for August as well, with 3 big chances created over the course of the season, 37 FPL points, and the XG is only 0.85, 10 shots overall, 5 on target, which is the same as Richarlison, 9 shots inside the box, and the XA is decent, but there is an overperformance there because it's 1.89 and he's got 4 assists on the board. 2 big chances overall and 17 key passes is only bettered by Bruno Fernandes in the Premier League. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Would you hold Jack Grealish? There aren't many midfielders who are clearly better than him in this position, apart from Salah, who I still think will be one of the best options over the course of the season. Saka, Semenyo, Ismaila Sarr, Moises Caicedo. You could even argue that Grealish is better than Kudus over the next 5 game weeks overall. But of course, against Man City, for those that decide to keep, you bench him, then you reintroduce him into the starting 11 against Tottenham at home, going into match day 9. So I think Jack Grealish could be held on to in certain situations. However, I would be more keen on selling Reinders instead. He is cheaper than Grealish and he is featuring, of course, in Game Week 8, and a lot of people will start him against Everton at home. But I've been quite frustrated by Reinders because he is quite inconsistent as an FPL asset. He's a brilliant player and he got that massive return against Arsenal, but a lot of FPL managers like myself would have benched him in such an occasion, and it might be quite difficult to foresee when he's going to produce that massive return. Whenever he does get a goal or assist, he has a great chance of getting bonus points. The DEFCON won't be regular, but that is also another avenue to points for him, which he can secure from time to time. But it's only 1 goal and 2 fantasy assists so far this season. The XGI is quite low at 1.46 and 31 FPL points. You look at the upcoming fixtures as well. After Everton at home, which I don't think will be easy, you've got Aston Villa away, Bournemouth at home, Liverpool at home, and Newcastle away. I think with Man City, Erling Haaland is the clear standout, and after that, you could make a case for one of Gvardiol or Donnarumma. Phil Foden is still quite appealing in certain fixtures. The same goes for Doku, who was benched in Game Week 7. But in the case of Reinders, I know the price tag means he's not a priority, but Moises Caicedo is a massive upgrade because he is scoring goals more frequently at this point of the season, but the main appeal with him would be the DEFCON, which he's securing on a regular basis. So if you can do something like Reinders to Caicedo, I would highly recommend it. And on the wild card, there'll be no debate in my mind for that sort of midfielder at this price point and below. You've also got Granit Xhaka and a few other midfielders I've discussed in my recent wildcard squads, and you will see even more covered in the upcoming podcast. But I think Reinders is sellable. Of course, against Everton at home, you can hold him, then sell in Game Week 9. In terms of timing and the fixtures, that'd be the best way to go about it. But in the long term, I just don't really find Reinders that appealing in Fantasy Premier League. The third most selected midfielder in FPL is Mohamed Kudus, only behind Semenyo and Mohamed Salah. I think in the case of Kudus, he is a hold for those that have him, especially for the next 2 games, but afterwards, he is arguably a sell, facing the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal in that sort of 3 game week period between match days 10 and 12. But Kudus can still return in those matches, and he has been Spurs' best player so far this season. He is clearly their best asset in FPL with the assist potential. He also got his first Premier League goal of this season in Game Week 7, just like Jack Grealish, and I think Kudus is still right up there amongst the best midfielders in FPL in that top 10, but on a wild card, I don't think he makes the cut just yet, especially with those fixtures in mind. But when the fixtures do turn eventually around Game Week 13, that's where you could make a case for investing in Kudus and having him as your only Spurs attacker. He has 1 goal and 5 fantasy assists, the most of any player this season, with 5 shots on target and 39 FPL points. The ownership is 33.4%, and he recently went up in price to 6.8 million, just like his teammate Richarlison, and Kudus is clearly a step above the Brazilian in that regard. The XG is 1.25 and the XA is 1.1, with 3 big chances, 1 big chance created, and 13 key passes, 13 shots overall, and 8 shots inside the box. I think Kudus is still a decent FPL asset. You don't have to sell him, and for those that have him, he is not a sell, not for the next 2 game weeks in my opinion, and the form he is showing is very promising. He looks more likely to score, he's drifting into central positions and creating a lot of havoc for opposition defences, and he's also completing the most dribbles of any player so far this season. So Kudus is a quality player. He's doing extremely well at Tottenham Hotspur. He just needs to add more goals to his game, and I think with the recent modifications to his play, I think we're going to see even more goals from him in the future. But with the fixtures in mind, I don't think you should invest in Kudus at this moment in time. I also feel the same way about Justin Kluivert, who is a massive differential with 1% ownership. He was one of the most appealing midfielders in FPL at this point last season. He is the main penalty taker for Bournemouth when he's on the pitch, and Semenyo will take those duties when Kluivert is on the bench. And we saw him start, of course, in Game Week 6. He made a cameo against Fulham in Game Week 7 and scored an incredible goal, and he will break into that starting 11 eventually, but I think the best time to invest in Kluivert is when he starts consistently and when the Cherries have promising fixtures starting from Game Week 12 against West Ham at home. But when you've got the likes of Man City and Aston Villa over the next 4, and even Crystal Palace away won't be easy, I think with Kluivert, it's a watch and see, and you could add him to the list and maybe invest in a couple of weeks' time, but he'll still be a differential by that stage when Bournemouth fixtures turn for the better, and it could be an alternative route of covering that Bournemouth attack as opposed to the template Antoine Semenyo pick. Now, to be quite honest with you, I know it's quite boring, but I think Semenyo is the clear standout in this Bournemouth team, but Justin Kluivert could match him in certain games and maybe do extremely well when he gets those consistent starts and also a few penalties under his belt. It's only 1 goal this season, 6 shots and 12 FPL points, so it has been a slow start to the season for Justin Kluivert. His XG is quite low at 0.33 and the expected assists isn't much higher at 0.39 with 4 key passes and no big chance created. So the stats aren't particularly great, but neither are the minutes, and he will get more returns, of course, once he gets those opportunities to show what he's about. So I think Justin Kluivert is someone to add to the watch list. He's not necessarily a buy, hold, sell or skip at this moment in time, but let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. The most transferred out players at this run of the game week includes Mohamed Salah, who has been sold by over 400,000 FPL managers. I think that's a mistake, to be honest with you. He has a great record against Man United. Liverpool at home will always fancy themselves, and after losing 3 consecutive games across all competitions, I think they're going to bounce back after this international break and Salah will produce a massive return. So selling him isn't really something I'd recommend whatsoever. He's going to be right up there for the captaincy. It's a close call between him and Erling Haaland. I think if you base off form, Haaland is the clear victor, but Salah's record against United speaks for itself. Joao Pedro, Grealish, Gyökeres and Richarlison are in the top 5 most transferred out players. We've also got Chris Wood, who went down in price overnight to 7.3 million. Luckily, I sold him for Voltemada in Game Week 7. Bruno Fernandes, Ekitike, Livramento, Van Dijk, Alisson, Reinders, Van der Ven, Wirtz, Watkins, Mbeumo, Palmer, Isak, Enzo Fernandez and Sells are also in this top 20 most transferred out players, and you did see the most transferred in at the beginning of this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and also found it insightful. If you did, then drop a like on this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date on my content for both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Stay tuned for the next couple of weeks where matchday free content will be headed your way, and for Game Week 8, of course, there's going to be even more videos before that Saturday deadline, where I'll be going live, of course, 2 hours before the deadline. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. There's my Discord server, the FPL League, Spotify, and also leave a 5-star review there. It goes a long way to support my channel. And check out patreon.com/FPL Dylan and click the join button on YouTube to gain early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. I'll see you on Saturday for the next deadline stream, and the plan is to do a reaction probably on the Saturday, but if not, it will be on the Sunday instead. And there's going to be even more live streams and videos headed your way throughout the course of the season. This is your one-stop shop for FPL and UCL Fantasy coverage. I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 8 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you on Saturday.